Hey, everybody, welcome to my guest tonight. I'm Jeff. I'm your host. I've got a great guest joining me, Tessa Santarpia. We're talking neuroscience, anxiety, trauma, CEO, visualizing 360, Playboy Bunnies.
She blends breathwork and brainwaves, somatic and soul. A guide through the chaos to help people feel whole. With roots in the science and eyes on the light, she's helping us heal through the darkest of night. She's Tessa Santarpia, bold and bright, and she's joining Jeff Revilla on my guest tonight. Where spirit meets science and stories ignite. So tune in now, this moment feels right.
Tessa, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Jeff, for turning my life into a song. That was epic.
That's my favorite part of the show because I'm trying to, set a stage, tell a story, and give a little bit of your background in that song. And a lot of times I see people, they're backstage, they're dancing, and it is a weird thing to hear a song about you. And it kind of really sets the stage for what we're going to talk about. We have some amazing things to cover in the next 45 minutes. And I'm in Pittsburgh. I think are you in New York?
I'm in LA.
You're in LA now, but you're from the New York area.
Yep, from Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo, New York. And that's where you started your education, where all this journey began. I think you went to Fordham University, studied biological sciences, and went on for your master's. Tell us a little bit about your studies and what led you down that path.
Yeah, so I went to Fordham. I was kind of on the pre-med track, biology, psychology. I was just very drawn to the sciences. And then I ended up going on for my master's in health policy and management at Columbia University. And I was just very drawn to wanting to help people heal themselves, drawn to health. So that was just a really exciting time for me. Living in New York, had the support of these two schools by me to kind of figure out my path.
Was there anything that led you into the medical field? Was there something? Is it something that happens in your family? Was it an experience you had maybe in high school, or was there some sort of trigger that pushed you down the medical path?
Well, my mom is a neuropsychologist, and I have seen the way that she interacts with her patients and just the support that she's given over the years. So I was very drawn to psychology, but I didn't necessarily want to go to school to be a psychologist. I was more into bridging kind of different areas of science and medicine into one. So I couldn't really just focus on one discipline that I wanted to study. I kind of had a wandering eye to bridge a lot of different gaps. And I realized very later in my career that that was actually my superpower, although it felt very chaotic when I was going through school.
Were there certain classes that jumped out at you? Like this was something that really caught my attention, or I really dove in headfirst in these types of classes?
Yeah, I loved physics, specifically quantum physics. I was very drawn to our understanding of reality, consciousness, the things that we couldn't necessarily see. And I was very drawn to bridging kind of science and measurement with those aspects of science. So it was exciting to kind of dive into that and learn like, wow, there's a lot of different people studying a lot of different areas that are not just taught to me in school. I can actually do a lot of insight on the internet and go to different retreats. And it just kind of opened my eyes to what was really available.
And that really sets the stage for your future. And I was doing a lot of research on you. Very difficult to find a lot on you other than your LinkedIn page, Facebook, Instagram. There wasn't a ton, but you revealed something that you did while you were going to school to help get you through school. And it kind of not defined who you were, but, help you grow as a person. And tell us a little bit about what you did while you were going through school.
Okay, so when I moved back to New York City for graduate school, I had heard that a Playboy Club was reopening in Manhattan. It was an effort to revamp the brand. And Playboy had always held kind of an allure for me. My mom was a Playboy Bunny in the 80s, and she actually loved her experience. I always loved her stories. That's also where she met my dad, who was working as a bartender at the time. So in a way, Playboy is really where my story begins. And there was just something about the brand, the history, and even the taboo that really always intrigued me. So I was very excited to audition and have that as my job while I was putting myself through school. And it really was an incredible experience. I met very cool people. I was kind of introduced into the nightlife in New York City and learned what, the hospitality industry is like. And ultimately, I learned a lot about just identity and being my own person during that time.
And that's very important. The be able to accept, maybe whatever the situation is or whatever path you're on, and owning that and being part of that. Because if I was still living, my path as a kid, I grew up in punk rock and skateboarding. I had a skateboard shop. Like I'd still be 50-year-old skateboard Jeff. And those skills that I learned, though, running around the streets at night and doing crazy things, help define me and become a business owner, a marketer, a podcast host. I'm able to do these other things because of the skill set that I developed as a kid, being independent. And those things, not only did I don't know if they define who I am, but they help certainly shape who I am. And we're going to get into your story here. We're going to add CEO to this title too, because there's a lot of things that happen. And tell us a little bit about, as you evolve, you get out of college, you get your master's, you're working this job, and now you're starting to see things or you have the skill set now to, help people. And do you immediately go into starting a company? How do we get to individualize in 360?
Yeah, so I would say years into my work as a healthcare strategist, I had this jarring realization that our healthcare system is pretty broken. While there are so many devoted, brilliant people, doctors, researchers, public health leaders who genuinely want to promote health and heal people, the system that we operate in is built like a business. And unfortunately, it really does profit off of sickness, not necessarily health. So back when I was studying at Columbia, in our classes, we would study hospital budgets and case models that revealed that, chronic disease isn't just common, it's actually economically essential. And without it, our current system, the way that it's structured, really wouldn't survive. So there was no real space financially or logically for that root cause healing. And things that I was very drawn to, like lifestyle interventions, I found out weren't patentable, they're not profitable, they're not reimbursable. And that's when I really started to think there must be another way. So my journey kind of took an unexpected turn, where I finally really had the space, and I do owe this to COVID. If one positive thing came out, it gave me more space to kind of sit and ask myself, what am I interested in and what do I actually want to do? And what emerged was this kind of deep pull towards altered states of consciousness and their potential to really heal the body, unlock creativity, and optimize our performance. So that curiosity led me to India, where I was living in an ashram and studying Kriya Yoga, a meditative discipline rooted in breath control and self-realization. And from there, I became certified as a flow states coach, and I dove more into the neuroscience of peak performance and presence. I was trained in psychedelic integration, studying the powerful effects of plant medicine. And then I continued my training as a breathwork and trauma-informed healing facilitator, exploring how the body holds trauma, holds emotion, and the ways we can regulate our nervous system to heal ourselves. So really each path started to reinforce this same truth of healing being really multidimensional, and it really happens at this intersection of science, energy, and self-awareness, and it has to involve the whole person.
There was a movie in the 1980s. I think you said the title and a little bit of the plot. It was called Altered States, and it was a movie about a guy taking psychedelics in isolation chambers, trying to tap into millions of years of evolution. And I don't know anything about it. So this is where I get excited in the show, because I also heard you say flow state, and I don't even understand what that is. Tell me, when you're studying flow state, what is that?
Yeah, so flow is a actual It's an altered states of consciousness where we can think and perform at our best. So this is something we can actually track. It's a neurobiological signature, meaning there is a decrease in the regions linked to self-criticism and self-anxiety. So we actually stop having that inner critic that tells us, you're not doing the right thing, you're not doing enough. We can kind of get out of that mindset and we drop into just states of present in the moment. So we're feeling more and we're thinking less, which allows us to access these heightened states of creativity and intuition. And there's also the default mode network in the brain that starts to quiet. And those are really where our patterns are tied to our self identity, what we're supposed to be doing. That's where we can start to release trauma, where we can tap into fields of expanded possibility. So, the possibilities in this state really are endless. And the more that we tap into it throughout the week, the more we can kind of find our purpose and explore these deep states of performance and healing.
Are they enhanced with plants or medicines, or we've heard the term microdosing in the news in the last couple of years. Is that part of this same type of study?
Yeah, so I would say that they're all different. They all promote different states, especially in the brain, but really they're all trying to get you more in touch with your intuitive side and less in touch with the analytical thinking mind all of the time. So psychedelics, what's very cool, even in a microdose, which is a subperceptual dose, meaning it's like 1/10 of a recreational dose. So you're not supposed to feel trippy. You're not supposed to have these crazy hallucinations or anything, but it allows you to kind of create a distance within yourself and within your own mind so that when you do see these patterns of reaction, maybe you, blew up on someone that you love because you got into an argument, or you feel that road rage in traffic, or you feel an emotional breakdown over something minor happening. It allows you to kind of create space to be like, why am I reacting in this way? This may be, just something I'm used to, but it's not something that I actually have to keep choosing. So I would say that psychedelics are more for that distance and that observation to change those patterns, and flow are when we can actually turn off the kind of self-critical parts of us. What can we explore that's really possible?
Is that something you can enable like through meditation? Or I saw there's breath work involved. Is there a state that you can put yourself into, without plants or medicines?
Definitely. And psychedelics are not for everyone. And I wouldn't recommend that just anyone go out and try them, because you have to be deeply intentional and make sure that they're right for you. But meditation and breath work is something that anyone can do, and we can access those states on demand from the comfort of our homes, from our work offices, in the heat of an argument. They're really tools to help us biohack our nervous system, and either intentionally calm it down or energize it and drive focus for the moment. So these are all really just tools of getting us more in touch with our body and how we can use that.
Do you find that people with trauma, or someone like me, Gen X, who has had all these emotions, and we were kind of brought up to like, push that down, don't cry, don't show anybody that you have feelings or emotions, or don't tear up. Like, do you find that maybe people in trauma or people who have just been suppressing these feelings really react well to therapy like this?
Definitely. That release for some people can be physical, where you are allowed to have a release where you're crying or screaming or your body is shaking. For other people, it is mental, the aha moment of, wow, I have been really trapped and affected by this one experience that I thought I had kind of pushed to the wayside, or I thought I had gotten over, but it's still coming up when I'm doing this work. And I think the really cool thing about trauma informed approaches now is that we've started to understand that trauma doesn't always look like these dramatic or catastrophic events. It actually can be quite subtle in the moments you may have felt dismissed as a child, or ashamed for expressing your emotions, or pressured to be someone you weren't. When we say trauma, we're not talking about the event itself. We're talking about the energy that is actually trapped in the nervous system that you feel you can't escape from. So trauma isn't really defined as what happened, it's defined by how your particular nervous system responded when it didn't feel safe, seen, or supported. So, by restoring that sense of safety and agency and attunement, we're not just revisiting those painful memories, we're actually helping the mind and body start to feel safe enough to let go of those survival patterns.
About 7 years ago, my daughter, we were riding bikes and my daughter got hit by a drunk driver. I was behind her and he came around the corner and just hit her and
Uh,
she was injured. And I thought I dealt with it. And, went to therapy. I talked through it, but it was May 15th. And I'll tell you, every May 15th, Google pulls up my photo history and like, hey, this, check it out this day, 7 years ago. And I see a picture of
yeah.
the smashed bike and I see her leg was swollen and all these things. Like it just floods these emotions back all the time. And like you're saying, like maybe I haven't dealt with it, right? Because I'm still having some sort of physical reaction every May 15th, every time Google shows me these pictures again and again and again and again. So something I probably could benefit very much from therapy like this that would really help me get past these emotions, trapped emotions, or this neurological reaction that I have every May 15th.
Yes, and that is because trauma lives in the body. It affects our mind and the way that we think and perceive our environment, but it does live in the body. So, what we had found, I started the Visualizing 360 with my mom, who's a neuropsychologist. So, she was doing traditional therapy for years, and she started hitting a roadblock where people were saying, I've talked for 5 years, I've done this work, but for some reason, like you said, I'm still getting that emotional reaction. And that's where we kind of started to breed a new form of wellness where it needs to integrate the mind and the body. So we need talk therapy. It's a valuable tool. We need to rewire our thought patterns and get into some of that, but we also need to do the work on the body to actually get that release so that your body now feels safe enough on that day in May to not anticipate the past reoccurring.
You said some people have like a physical reaction. I'm not saying that this is tied to but sometimes there's businesses that have popped up in the last 5 years, especially since COVID, called rage rooms, where people can go in and have a physical reaction and just destroy the room for an hourly price. Does does that sound like something that some people are doing it for entertainment, obviously, but is there some therapy in like having a physical reaction like that, like those types of scenarios?
Yeah, of course, because again, by allowing yourself to have that reaction and just express your anger, you are confronting it. You are admitting that you're angry and acknowledging it and acknowledging what happened to make you that way. So, that in and of itself is cathartic because a lot of this work starts with just acknowledging the way that you feel and not shaming yourself for feeling that way. Because a lot of us kind of tell ourselves, like you said, push it down. It wasn't that big of a deal. It really, it's all good now. And we get locked in this feeling of, I really haven't processed that and given myself the space to move through that. So in a rage room, like that's an amazing tool. And if that's what, helps because you're able to express that, I fully support that.
And we talked a lot of trauma. And are there other areas where this is beneficial, maybe performance wise, maybe athletics? Where else can you see the Visualize in 360 helping people?
Definitely. So, our name comes from one of the most popular performance enhancement techniques used by athletes, which is visualization. So, it's really about creating a picture in your mind and then getting the associated excited feeling about attaining that picture. And that's kind of the process of visualization. It's been really siloed into athletics because I think it just lends itself very well. You have the exact picture of what you want. Athletes have direct training, so it's just part of their training, but we can use visualization in everyday life. It's valuable for athletes, but it's also valuable for someone who wants to manifest better health in their body, for someone looking to attract a new relationship. It's really it's not necessarily a spiritual concept. For what I think is, it's more of a neurological process. So you're training your brain to actually align with what you want instead of what you fear. So it's about rewiring that internal landscape and your thoughts and emotions and your behaviors to support your goals instead of self sabotaging. Because we all have these cognitive biases. We have the negativity bias. We have performance blocks that are telling us it's unlikely. You haven't achieved this in the past. What would make you think that you have any hope now? That's just a survival instinct that all humans have. So once we can kind of work with those and literally rewire them by doing practices like visualization, the brain starts to pay attention to new opportunities, and it starts to actually give us motivation to move towards goals that once felt impossible and unlikely. So it's really all about these practices that change the brain in our daily life.
How about other things such as nutrition, diet and nutrition, where something I certainly struggle with, like I would say I visualize about cheeseburgers all the time when I should be making better health choices. Is there areas here where you're working with people to, build a better or visualize a better diet plan, a healthier lifestyle? Does this also help people like that?
Definitely. We talk a lot about the mind gut connection, which for a while we thought that if what we eat affects our mental health, or sorry, we thought that what we think can affect our mental or our stomach. So if you get nervous on a test, you'll get butterflies in your stomach. If you get nervous, but now we're noticing that it's actually bidirectional, meaning that what we eat and what the contents in our stomach can affect our mental health. It can start making us more anxious or more depressed or just more prone to burnout and things like that. So learning about the way that diet and what you eat has an impact on your mind, I think goes a huge way in helping people to reframe, okay, I do need food as fuel. Not necessarily I have to look at kind of my patterns and adjust from here, but also the idea of focusing on what you gain rather than what you have to give up. Because a lot of the times with diets, they trick us into, just don't think about the cheeseburger, or think about if you don't have the cheeseburger, it's the fixation on the loss. When we turn it and really open your mind up to the new possibilities of you're going to be in excellent health, you're going to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and you're going to be able to have a cheeseburger when you want, not feeling needed to all the time or just compelled to because it's some sort of addiction. That gets people really excited. And that changes the brain to be like, okay, I'm not giving it up forever. I'm just changing my habits, and I'll be able to have a different relationship with it going forward.
Yeah, I think I became an adult during the rise of the Food Network, and the term foodies became a thing. So to me, food is like an activity. Food is something that you do, and you go to a restaurant and experience things. And it's only in the last 3 to 6 months where like you said it, where I started thinking about food as fuel, not this thing I do like you would learn to yo-yo or ride a bike or do something as an activity. I stopped thinking about food as an activity, and now I see food as fuel, as a way to get through the day, and not as a reward for every possible meal of the day. So that's a great tip. What you said, food is fuel. It's not this crazy thing you have to be immersed in 3 meals a day plus 3 snacks a day.
Definitely. And food being an activity is one of them. Food is also our coping mechanism when we get stressed. It's also how we deal with boredom. There's a lot of emotions tied to fuel. So something I like to remember is the mind will want many things, but the body only needs a few. And the more you can tap into listening to what your body needs in that moment, the better choices you end up making.
Through all of this, anything surprised you, or have you learned things about yourself or about this business model that you're doing with Visualize in 360? Anything been like completely shocking? Like I never would have expected that end result, but here we are, and it's something that's really working.
I think that realizing that the brain really is a supercomputer. We think of it as just this is who we are. We're prone to our personality type and our genetic disposition. And what we like and what we dislike. We all think that's very fixed, but the brain is a computer, and often it's just running on very outdated programming that a lot of us didn't have a lot of insight to when we got programmed. So that's our upbringing, that's just experiences that happened in our adulthood. And we just keep reinforcing the pattern because we don't know any other way of being. We don't even know that that change is possible. And seeing people who are just so stuck in maybe debilitating health issues or unfulfilling relationships or blocks, performance blocks, or blocks when it comes to making money or things like that. And they start literally just changing the simple ways that they think and reinforcing new mental habits throughout the day. They're literally reprogramming a new code. And it's just been incredible to see that transformation. It's something that we can see and measure. And then it's also something that people can feel, and they can really convey that this is something that, is something they really would have wanted to know their whole life. And it happens at any age. So it's just really showing that there's so much about the brain and body that we still have yet to learn, but we do have the tools at our disposal to start making those changes now.
You use the term outdated hardware, and or outdated software for our brain. And I think about that a lot because society has changed so much in not in 50 years, even in 20 years. And we haven't had time to evolve and catch up with the pace of life. Do you see that conflict between, what people entering your practice are capable of compared to like what they're trying to immerse their lives in? They're all this overstimulation, and cell phone addiction is certainly playing a part of this, where our brains just aren't ready for all of this.
No, definitely. We're too overstimulated, which is making it very difficult to actually slow down and think about who we are and what we actually want, because the world is kind of just grasping at us to take our attention in different ways. And what I would say is your attention is your power. The things that you focus on and the things how you spend your time with that focus is what's going to manifest in your life. What you give your energy to is what is going to keep being the circumstances that you're experiencing. So realizing that the brain is a supercomputer is really important, because you stop seeing these reactions that you've always kind of been accustomed to as flaws or just parts of who you are, and you start seeing them as ways that you can adapt to a new sense of self. So it becomes less about fixing yourself and more about regulating your nervous system in real time so that you could spend energy and focus doing things that you want, and doing things that make you feel alive and make you feel purposeful and excited and things like that. So remembering that the brain is going to execute on whatever code that you put into it. And you're going to take on the programming that you get throughout the day. So it becomes really intentional with what are you looking at? Who are you talking to? How do you spend your free time? That's something that I think everyone should really start considering more and more as we enter more of the technology age.
And you said you started this Visualizing 360 around COVID. Is that when this company came about?
No, COVID was really when I started exploring the non-traditional paths of medicine. And I did some traveling, not right away, but obviously when the pandemic kind of subsided. And it started really just getting me in touch with, where do I want to put my focus? Do I really want it in these settings where people are saying that this is the fifth doctor they've tried and nothing's working? Or do I want to go and explore what might work for some people, bring it in a package that, allows people to explore a lot of different modalities and see what works best for them? So I was very drawn to that non-traditional and traditional approach.
Company's been around a year, a couple years so far. Where do you see it going in 4 or 5 years? How do you see it evolving and reaching out to more people?
I think that we're really at this forefront of a new paradigm in healthcare, and that's going to integrate science, technology, and consciousness to treat the whole human, not just the symptoms. So I don't really believe that the future of healthcare is clinical. I believe that it's going to expand into all of the different aspects of society that we like receiving our health. wellness centers and yoga studios and maybe psychedelic clinics, and just really expanding health in a way that we haven't known before, and helping it to be more personal, preventative, and deeply empowering, restoring that power of I can heal myself and I can achieve the things that I want, is kind of, at the forefront of our minds and where we want it to go. So I think the brain data, somatic intelligence, energetic alignment are all going to work together to help heal people at the root level. And we're just excited to be a part of that and kind of lead that charge.
And people want to work with Visualizing 360. Do they have to be in Los Angeles, or do you do remote sessions? How does it work if somebody wanted to become a client or embrace this type of therapy?
Yeah, so we are online, so we take clients from all over the country, even internationally, as just English speakers. At this time, we're looking to translate our program into multiple languages. So you can find us online. We service people from all over the country. It's very easy to connect with us that way. We also have remote QEEG brain maps that can be shipped to your home. So you never really have to travel anywhere, deal with the boundaries of having certain resources. We make it pretty accessible.
Awesome. Tessa, this has been so much fun. I've learned so much in 30 minutes. My brain is reeling, trying to think of all the things I could really use to correct some of my problems. And I appreciate you sharing all this with us tonight. Visualizing360.com, I think, is the correct web address. Reach out, see all the services that they offer, a ton of information on the website. Tessa, thank you again. We're going to send it out with that theme song.
She blends breathwork and brainwaves, somatic and soul. A guide through the chaos to help people feel whole, with roots in the science and eyes on the light. She's helping us heal through the darkest of night. She's Tessa Santarpia, bold and bright, and she's joining Jeff Revilla on My Guest Tonight, where spirit meets science and stories ignite. So tune in